Chat, how we doing tonight? A lot of news, a lot of stuff coming out again. There's news every week in the off season, every day actually. Something news coming up, something's being confirmed. Signings are getting across the line. Some big offers for certain players are getting rejected. A lot of stuff going on. Hope you guys are having a great night. Hope you guys like this new format. Got a more of a square version of myself so you can see me a little bit up close, and also got a new background. Not sure what you guys think about that, but I thought we'd try something else. Make it look a little bit better, kind of freshen things up a bit. Hopefully you guys can see me a little better and enjoy this just a little bit more than the old format, right? But hope you guys are having a good night. Make sure if you haven't already, you smash the like button as you come in. Helps us out, obviously. We're going to try to get 100 likes like we always do. So smash that. Also subscribe to the channel. We are 300 subscribers away from 12,000. Huge remainder of the month. And big February coming up. You're not going to miss anything. So make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Glad to see a lot of you guys in there. Even a couple members of the channel. Angus, haven't seen him in a little bit. He says, I will miss Santa Claus. Hopefully City will find another offensive player. Yeah, let's and Mr. It's good to see you, my friend. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this because we got a lot to cover tonight. So Germán Berterame joins Inter Miami from Monterrey. That is officially going to happen, and they're going to pay $15 million. Now, we talked about this the other night, about this possibly happening and trending in that direction. But Rocky, appreciate it, my friend. We talked about this the other night, that it was going to likely happen, and it is going to happen. I mean, I wasn't really doubtful it was going to happen. We know that Berterame wants to play with Messi. Inter Miami are chasing the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, the trophy, and they're trying to strengthen their squad as much as they possibly can. And they even offered for a current MLS player earlier today, came out of nowhere. Now, that offer was rejected, but they were trying to buy one of the other best players in MLS, which just shows what their ambition is in 2026. But this is going to happen, and this is kind of a player that a lot of MLS teams have been chasing for a while now. Portland Timbers, sorry, Rocky, you guys tried to get him a couple years ago or last year. It was rejected. The other team, who was the other team that went for Germán Berterame? It was the Portland Timbers and Cincinnati. That's what Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati also wanted him. Agreed to terms, pulled out last minute, and didn't go. So this is a guy that a lot of MLS teams have been chasing for a while, and he's finally going to Inter Miami. Inter Miami look like they're the favorites to win MLS. They look like they're the favorites to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So it's interesting to see they got this finalized. They also bought Tadio Allende permanently 2 days ago. It was announced for $5 million. A lot of people are upset about that. We'll talk about GAM later because that was something else that was released today. How much GAM other players or other teams have specifically, which is cool because I like the transparency. And it also is frustrating because you see how much money a lot of teams have that they're not spending, right? That's BS. They should be spending and committed more to improving the squad to make a playoff push, maybe win MLS Cup. But there's some teams that are just sitting on a pile of general allocation money. Yes, he is a striker. And we pulled up a formation of where he's going to play a couple days ago when this rumor first came up, because I think this was Saturday. No, it was Friday night was when this rumor really started to pop up. With Friday night. And then it kind of, I think it was Saturday when Jorge Mas talked to the media and said that they were going to know in the next couple hours if it was going to happen. Anyway, it's going to happen. So Inter Miami are going to sign Germán Berterame, and this is a huge signing. This is probably the best signing of this offseason so far. I don't really think it's close. Berterame could be a very good signing, a bit of a steep price tag for me, but understandable with this CONCACAF Champions Cup. Miami just need a couple of backups now. Yeah, and I'd say their depth is pretty good overall. I don't think it's bad. But this is what's the piece that I think they really needed if they wanted to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So Inter Miami able to get a huge move. I don't know if you guys, how highly you rate this move, but this is a big move in my opinion. And it kind of leads me, I just want to touch on that real quick. Huge move, probably favorite move of the season. Now, this is where things get really interesting. this is where things get really interesting. We were trying to see Inter Miami try to poach another team's one of their best players. They were trying to poach another team in MLS's best players and arguably a top 5 player in Major League Soccer last season. Before Inter Miami moved on to Berterame, an offer was launched for Denis Bouanga. Miami presented an offer worth $13 million for LAFC in their star. LAFC rejected the deal. Bouanga doesn't want to leave, but he'd like a new contract with his club. And we'll talk about that in a second. But man, could you imagine if this had went through, if Inter Miami had purchased Denis Bouanga from LAFC? LAFC fans would have lost their mind, not just because they would have lost one of their best players, their second best player, but because they would have lost their second best player to Inter Miami and strengthened them. Because both teams are playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Both teams want to win the MLS Cup in 2026. And you would be helping one of your biggest rivals, or biggest threats, I should say, to the MLS Cup. You would be helping them directly by giving them your second best player and top 5 player in MLS in 2025 at least, right? So they rejected that, right? And I didn't think they were going to accept that. $13 million is a good offer, though. I don't remember exactly what Club America were offering LAFC last year, 2024, I think it was 2024, late 2024, early 2025. They were trying to purchase Denis Bouanga from LAFC, but LAFC weren't willing to sell, or I think maybe Club America weren't willing to pay what LAFC were asking, but I think it was less than $13 million. So, $13 million might be the biggest offer they've gotten for Denis Bouanga. And I want to say that when they purchased Denis Bouanga in 2022, when he was only 27 years old, they only paid. Let me just look this up real quick because I want to make sure it wasn't as much as you would think. They only paid 4.5 million euros for Denis Bouanga in 2022. So they would have made almost $8.5 million off of selling Denis Bouanga, more than they paid for him. And he's 4 years older, 31. He's 31 years old. He was 27 when they bought him. He came from the French league at the time. So that's a pretty tempting offer, but they said, no, we don't want to sell him. We want to keep him with Son Heung-min, and we want to see what these two guys can do together in a full season rather than getting rid of him and having to find another DP. They'd have to find 2 DPs. Now they only have 2 right now. If they sold Denis Bouanga, they would have 2 DP spots open in 2020 and 2026. But I can't even imagine what the LAFC fans would be thinking if that happened. I mean, they have already had a very underwhelming offseason so far. And if they sell Denis Bouanga, I mean, I feel like the fans would probably crash out, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a team, like I said, they're trying to win trophies. You can't be getting rid of your best players, or one of your best players. Inter Miami's not getting rid of any of their best players. They're adding. And LAFC should be doing this exact same thing. Man, that would have been a crazy move that would have probably, I don't want to say shook MLS, but damn, it might have. It might have shook MLS. It would have been crazy. But the only thing about that is it really doesn't make sense why Denis Bouanga would be on Inter Miami, because they've got Silvetti playing on the left side. He's got a lot of potential. They've got Tadio Allende on the right side. Messi's playing as a 10 now. And now, Germán Berterame is obviously playing as a striker. I don't really know where Denis Bouanga would fit in this equation because he is a left winger. Now, I guess he could play up top theoretically. And, me and Mr. Mister have talked about this numerous times about them needing pace. And my God, Denis Bouanga's got plenty of that. He might be top 5 fastest player in MLS, at least top 10, but maybe top 5 fastest player in MLS. So if they had signed him, that would have fit a huge need, and that would have made things interesting. But he still would have been playing out of position. So would have been a weird fit, especially $13 million. I think they got the better deal, and honestly, it doesn't weaken an MLS team in the process. They're weakening a Liga MX team in the process rather than taking another team in Major League Soccer's best player. So would not have liked that move for either squad. Glad that didn't happen. But Inter Miami just shows that they really, really were going for it. A 4-4-2 with Bouanga and Berterame. They can't sign Bouanga. They've already Berterame is their third designated player, so they have no more DP spots open. They cannot sign anyone. They cannot pay 13 million for anyone else. That can't happen. I mean, I don't even really know, honestly, how they spent 5 million on Tadio Allende without him being a DP, but I'm sure we'll figure that out as time passes on. If LAFC sold Bouanga, they'd have to bring in a world-class DP to appease the fans. I think honestly, they need to still do that this summer. We'll see if they do. But yeah, I mean, it would be really bad if they had done that. I mean, it's already a very underwhelming offseason. I made a video about this with my friend Nick about LAFC, but if they had sold Denis Bouanga, I mean, I would hate to see what would have happened with the whole entire MLS fan bases. You know, the whole entire league's fan bases would have lost their mind if Denis Bouanga was sold to Inter Miami. That's just a fact, right? That is just a fact. It would have been insane. Okay, so let's get to the next thing. Now, this is something I think is interesting for the LA Galaxy. They made a move today. They signed a new striker, right? But before we get into that, 105 you guys in the chat, make sure you guys smash the like button. We're at 26 likes. Let's try to get to 100. Let's try to get to 100 likes. It helps us out. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get to the 12K. We're 300 away. Appreciate all you guys who have joined us tonight. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Hope you guys are having a great night. Ernest, a member of the channel. Good to see you, Ernest. He says nothing would have appeased us if that would happen. And hey, listen, I can't blame you. LAFC's on the 2 DP and 4 U22 model. Amy, how's it going, my friend? Okay, let's get into this next thing. This is a big thing too, in my opinion. LA Galaxy get a striker after trading for or buying João Klauss from St. Louis City SC. And my friend, my friend Angus mentioned this earlier because he's a St. Louis City SC fan, that they have lost Santa Claus to the LA Galaxy. Now, I don't really know what St. Louis City are doing. I guess they're going into a different direction, but this, we're talking about this from an LA Galaxy perspective. This was a good move. I think it's a good move. The LA Galaxy have really struggled in 2026 or 2025. We know Ricky Puig was hurt. He tore his ACL. He sadly retore it again in 2026 before the season even started. He's out for the year. They get João Klauss, who's an interesting striker. I would consider him more of a hold-up playmaking striker than a traditional 9, but I do think he's good for what the LA Galaxy need. And the main reason I think this is because when you look at who he's playing between, you have him up top, where I think he's going to start, and then you have Gabriel Peck on the right, and you have Joseph Paintsel on the left. I think this guy is going to distribute and set these other two attackers or wingers up very, very nicely. I think he is going to fit right in. And I don't think the LA Galaxy could have done a better job of getting someone for $2 million. I mean, João Klauss is only 28 years old. He's still relatively young. Has a lot. I mean, he's not, I don't say he's relatively young. He's not old, though, right? He's definitely not old. He could play a couple more years at a high level, I think, for MLS standards. And I think he's a huge improvement over what they had in 2025. 2025, they had 3 different strikers. They had Matias Nascimento, too young, too injured. Brought him back, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. They had Christian Ramirez, MLS vet, friend of mine, like him a lot. Just at this point in his career, 34, going on 35 years old, he's just not a starter at this point. He was supposed to be a bridge striker for the young guy, for Nascimento. He was supposed to be the guy who could kind of help ease him into his new starting role, but he ended up having to play more games than he probably should have. I think he started 19, 20 games in 2025. And then they also had Miguel Berry, who was the third string striker. So they just had a turnstile of strikers in 2025, and it was an absolute disaster on top of Ricky Puig being out. So they get someone who's an MLS vet, who's got 25 goals and 79 appearances. And just for good measure, I want to look and see how many assists he has. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna blow you away with his assists, but he is kind of a playmaking. I think he's really good for what they need. He's really good for what they need. I mean, he's only got 6 assists, but if you watch him, I think he will fit in nicely and play off of Joseph Paintsil and play off of Gabriel Peck very nicely in 2026. I don't know how you guys would rate this move, but I like it. Honestly, I like this move. I don't know what we would give it out of 10, 1 through 10, 1 being really bad, 10 being very good. I mean, I probably would give it like a 7. I'd probably give it a 7 just because I think the price is very, very fair, right? I think it's a good deal. To be fair, the Galaxy need to try and replace Jovic. St. Louis needs to rebuild in the summer. That's true. Klauss had a better year last year with better attackers. He will be better. And that's another thing. I don't think Klauss really had the help with St. Louis City to really showcase his abilities on a consistent basis outside that first year. I think that he really we haven't seen the true best of him. I think he could look better in this LA Galaxy team. So I really like this. Really, really like this move for them. And I mentioned earlier that they had re-signed Matheus Nascimento from Botafogo on loan. They got him on another year loan with an option to buy. I don't dislike him either. I think he's a good striker too with potential. They just can't buy him because he's just not proven anything enough consistently. Even if he's shown his promise, he just hasn't shown enough to where you're going to go spend $6 or $7 million on him, which I think is what his price tag was. $6 or $7 million on him as a U22 when he's only scored 4 goals in 22 appearances, and he just couldn't stay healthy. But you saw the flashes. So if he has a good season in 2020 and 2026, maybe they'll purchase him. Salvetti is better than Bouanga by a mile. I don't know if he's better than by a mile. I think he could be better than him long term, but right now Bouanga is better. But Salvetti's ceiling is obviously higher. A lot of people say, okay, so 6. Michael says it's a 6 on the transfer. Elijah says it's a 7. He says it's a solid move, especially for depth. Galaxy needed more help, and I think he's going to start. I do think Nascimento is going to be able to compete for the starting spot and maybe win it over. But I fully expect Klauss to be the starter in 2026, at least at the beginning of the season. And I do think the Galaxy are going to look a lot better. They've made moves for Justin Hack. They've made a move for Jacob Glesnes. Now they got João Klauss. But, and I tweeted this too. I want to pull this tweet up about the LA Galaxy situation because I do think this is important. This is just one piece of the equation. There's another move that they need to make before this season starts in order to feel really good about their 2026 season. I said João Klauss is a huge upgrade with the Galaxy if the move officially happens, which I think it's going to. Ricky Puig was missed big time in 2025, but so was Dejan Jovic. The Galaxy still need to try to get a real replacement for Puig this offseason, but they're definitely improving this team. They have to get a replacement for Puig. They have to get someone who can be a facilitator, who can make plays in the midfield. Now, no one's going to truly replace Ricky Puig. We can all agree with that. No one's going to truly replace him. He's a very good player. He was a top 5 player in MLS when he was healthy. If you watched him, you know that, right? But they need to have someone who's better than what they had in 2025. Marco Reus is not going to cut it. And that's what they were hoping for in 2025, for him to fill the void of Ricky Puig. That didn't happen. So they have a DP spot open. They're going to put him on the injury reserve list, right? And they're going to be able to have a free DP spot open for the rest of the year. Let's see what they can do. Mr. says, in all honesty, it'd be hard for the Galaxy to start worse than last year. I mean, they had 7. They were winless in 17 matches to start the year. If that happens again, someone's getting fired. Hell, if that happens again, everybody might get fired. So we'll see what happens in 2020 and 2026 for the Galaxy. But it's hard. I would be hard pressed to not think they would be better in 2026. I'd be hard pressed to believe that they would not be better in 2026. Okay, so let's get to this next piece of news, and we got I guess there's 2 other things. Unless I'm missing something, feel free to put in the chat if I'm missing anything or there's something else you guys want me to talk about when it comes to this to transfers. If I miss something, make sure you put it in the chat. But the next thing I saw today was by Herman Garcia Grova. He said exclusive. Atlanta United made a formal offer to sign Guido Rodriguez. Economic differences arose with Valencia, and the team led by Tata Martino advanced in negotiations for the midfielder from West Ham. So they sold Slish, I think it was for $3 million. And we'll look at this more in depth later with Atlanta United, but Atlanta United have like $4.5 million in GAM. And we're going to look at this whole list. And I'm going to pull up my tweet, which I made one error on about the list. So don't give me too much of a hard time for that. But we'll look at the order of who has the most TAM or GAM left. But this looks like it's going to be a replacement for Slish. And obviously, Tata Martino loves his South American players to play his style of ball, right? And he has got like a really good relationship with a lot of different players. I mean, the guy is damn near world-class scout in his own right, on top of being a really good coach. And they don't have a DP spot open because they have Miranchuk, Latte Lot, and Miguel Miron. So they would have to sign Guido Rodriguez to a TAM deal. He'd have to be a TAM deal. Now, if he came to MLS on a TAM deal, he would probably be taking a pay cut. I mean, he played 29. He has 29 appearances for West Ham United in league play, 139 for Real Betis, and then before that, he was playing for Club America. So he played in Liga MX actually for a couple years. So I guess he just wants to come back to North America. But let's look at his salary with West Ham. Now, obviously, he's going to have to take a pay cut regardless. But so it says he's making 3.9 million pounds annually at West Ham United. So if he were to come to MLS, he would have to take almost an over $2 million pay cut to come over here to Atlanta United. He'd have to take a $2 million pay cut to come over here. Now, he is 31 years old. I don't know if Valencia were going to be willing to pay him. Probably more than 1.8, $1.9 million. But I just don't know if this is going to happen because of the roster rules or mechanisms in Major League Soccer. This is one I find kind of hard to and yes, Guido Rodriguez is a World Cup champion with Argentina. It was on the 2022 World Cup roster. This is one that I don't really think is feasible. And it's not like he's old either. I mean, he's not young, but he's 31. I think he'll be 32 this year. I don't really think he's going to be willing to take a pay cut to come here at this point in his career. Now, I could be wrong about that. I don't know Guido Rodriguez. I don't know his relationship with Tata Martino. And Tata Martino is obviously he is a masterclass when it comes to negotiating and getting people to come play in MLS. He's been doing it since his first stint with Atlanta United, getting players that you probably never thought would come here. But I just don't think this is going to happen. I think it's tough to make that happen. But I've been wrong before. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. They could get him. He's rebuilding this team. They have $4.5 million in GAM right now. They sold Slish. This could happen. But if I was a betting man, I would say it's going to be a tough one to pull off. It's going to be a tough one to pull off because the most they can pay him is somewhere in the $1.8 million range. And I just don't think he's going to be willing to take that much of a pay cut unless he just really wants to live in the United States. But if he does come, it would fit a need. I mean, it makes sense of why they would be targeting him because he would be a replacement for Slish. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's something to monitor. And if it does happen, we'll make sure to mention it later. Okay, so this is something else I really want to talk about. This is something exciting. This is what we were talking about with transparency in Major League Soccer. They are releasing General Allocation Money. General Allocation Money is just a mechanism in MLS that allows you to buy certain players or buy down their roster charge so their cap hit isn't as high on the salary cap. It's very very, very, very important, and it can really help a team take it to the next level or be a true contender. So they released this earlier today. Of all the teams in Major League Soccer who all their how much money they have in GAM, okay? All the teams. There was a couple of them that were very eyebrow raising, right? Something that kind of like caught me off guard, like, whoa, they have that much? What? And it kind of makes you wonder what the plan is for some of these teams who have this scam. Now, I said earlier today that I made a post talking about who had the most scam, and there was one typo. I had Houston below Inter Miami when Houston has more money. But I did order this for everybody to show them how each team ranks based on how much GAM they have. So the team with the most GAM in MLS is Minnesota United. They have almost $7.3 million in GAM. Now, they just got a new coach, so I know they're not going to spend all of that right now. They might not spend all of it at all, but they have a lot of flexibility and a lot of resources to spend and get their roster better, something I expect them to do. Then you have RSL, almost $7 million. And I had a fan comment on my video that I just released with Favi because I was talking about how some MLS teams haven't been very effective or done enough to improve their teams in 2020 and 2026, and that they needed to try to be more aggressive in adding or upgrading certain positions. I'm not saying you have to go sign Messi or Berterame or Son Heung-min. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about just adding pieces to your team that makes them better than they were the prior year, the previous season. Add competition, make the team better. Made a video talking about how there's a lot of teams lack of ambition. And then you see something like this, and it kind of just validates what I was thinking. Now, I guess I made a couple mistakes here. I don't know what the hell happened here, but, we get the general sense. I mean, we can read and talk about each team and see, who's last and who's first. Austin FC's last with 2.5 million. Minnesota's, first place 7.2. One thing that was surprising too is Inter Miami. We've all talked about how good they've been in 2026 so far at making their team better. They have $6.5 million in GAM still. Now, I'm assuming that this was before they purchased Tadio Allende. But if that's true, if they still have $6.5 million after buying Tadio Allende, that's really scary. That's really scary for the rest of the league, just because they have so much more flexibility. And it honestly makes a lot of sense, too, of why they were trying to buy Tristan Blackman, because they have the money to do it. They were trying to buy Tristan Blackman. If they have $6.5 million in GAM, they've got plenty of money to do that. So that makes it's starting to make a little bit of sense, but it's also not really making a lot of sense how they are so much better at other teams at maximizing their resources, because they've already signed a couple different players this year and they still have a lot of resources left over. Now, another team that kind of surprised me was, Houston also. Houston's been making a lot of moves too, which is impressive. They, someone mentioned earlier about Matty Bogusz, which we've talked about. They're about to sign him as a DP, but they have a lot of room to still improve their roster as well. And I expect them to do that. But there's just some teams you're just like, what are they doing? What are they like? Montreal is one of the worst ran teams in the league. They got $6 million in GAM. They probably won't use half of this for the 2026 season. Seattle, they were saying that they had no financial structure. They had no flexibility to add players outside of a couple in 2020 and 2025. They were trying to add a U22 striker that Ohio, but they fell through. But they kind of made it seem like they were hamstrung. They couldn't really do anything. And they got $5.5 million in GAM. And I really haven't seen them do anything so far in 2026. Actually, they haven't done much in 2026. There's so many teams, all these resources. And then there's teams that aren't that good, like the Revolution, and they have only $3.3 million in GAM. It's like, what are they using their money on? Who are they using this on? They have been more transparent about how much each team has, but they haven't been transparent about how each team has gotten to the amount that they have. That would be what I would like to see next. How do they get to this number? What have they spent this money on? How did they acquire this money to gain more? That's what I would like to see next. Why does Minnesota have 7.2? Why does Seattle have 5.5? Why does Montreal have 6? And why does Austin FC have 2.5? That's what I would like to know. That's the true transparency that I would like to see next on how they got to these numbers, what they did to get to them. But you see, though, certain teams have more than others. So between Austin FC, the 2.5, the last team with the least amount of GAM, and the number one team, 7.2, quick math on the air. You have a like what a 4.7, yeah, $4.7 million GAM difference between the top team and the bottom team. That's pretty significant when you think about how much each team has. But this just shows, guys, all this money that these teams are sitting on, and they've already got their team signed that they need to invest more in the roster. And hopefully, some people in the video were telling me that that they're going to wait to the summer after the World Cup, which I'm not really too thrilled about. I wish they would do it now. But, as long as they use it, that's really all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me is that they use it in 2026. Well, do you think Inter Miami has all that money due to the Club World Cup cash prizes for winning games? I know they got $10 million from making out of the group stage, but I don't think they can convert all that to GAM. I think they can only convert maybe 3 million of that into GAM. And I'm not really sure how Inter Miami has that. I'm not sure. I'm not saying they're cheating. I mean, I've never said that. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of like what I said earlier. I wish there was more transparency so we could see how each team got this amount of money. How each team got this amount of money in GAM. I would like to know that. How they got to this point. Not just a number, what they did to either be at the bottom or the top, or who they sold, who they bought. That's what I want to know. Who are they spending this game on? That's what I would like to know. But I do think some of the Club World Cup money probably did go to Inter Miami's GAM pot in 2026. All this money to play with, but very little moves being made by their teams. You'd think they were trying to buy players for IOUs and GOATs. The thing is, the salary cap money, GAM and TAM is not even money out of the owner's pocket. It's just MLS distributed money that is used. It is use it or lose it. That's true. That's true. Should MLS start allowing DP positions to be traded like international roster spots? That is interesting. It's been proposed for a while. I just don't know how they would do it and how much they would cost. An international roster spot can cost as high as $250,000. And it's only good for 1 or 2 seasons. It depends on how long you buy it for. That's the problem with the DP spot. If you trade away, I mean, God, that'd be so bad for the team that you trade away from, right? Losing that spot. I mean, I go back and forth on that because it's good for the ambitious teams and it's bad. I feel really bad for the fans. And I look, you know me, I'm very for or pro ambitious teams, but it can really screw a team over. I don't remember which team it was. Was it Houston? There was a team that sold a international spot like permanently, traded an international spot permanently, and I think they got it back somehow. But I mean, could you imagine you get 8 international spots on each team and you get green cards and there's other ways you can trade for them like Michael's talking about. But could you imagine permanently trading away one of your international roster spots? That's insane. Like, what if a team did that with their DP spots? I mean, that would be insane. Portland needs a lot and just got the Bank of America sponsor. Overdraft fees alone should get us a big name, right? And Merritt Paulson used to spend a lot of money. I don't know what happened. I mean, I wouldn't say he hasn't. It just feels different. It's been different for a while. If they allow trading of DPs, this league will become Miami versus LA every year. The smaller clubs will slowly lose fans. You know, the one thing, though, that I don't understand, and look, there's a lot of people who support big clubs, obviously, all around the world. But there are teams that don't spend a lot of money all over the world in several different leagues, and they still have plenty of fans, right? I mean, who's the cheapest team in the Premier League right now? Who would you say is like the absolute? Maybe Mister, my good friend, could help me out with this, but who would you say is the absolute dirt cheapest team in the Premier League? I mean, look at Luton Town. What was it, 2 years ago that they were in the Premier League? I mean, Luton Town had no chance in hell of winning the Premier League. We all know they had no chance, but they were still in the Premier League and they had fans. They had fans. Like there were fans of Luton Town. Now, listen, I've never met a Luton Town fan in person, but they have fans. I wouldn't say there would be no fans for the team. Brighton, is Brighton the cheapest team? Are they? I don't know if they are. I mean, they could be, but I don't know if Brighton is the cheapest team. But either way, we'll lose. I'm just using Luton Town as an example because they came up and they went down super, super fast. There's fans of that team because they're seeing them in their first league. And the fact that your team will never get relegated in MLS also kind of makes it appealing for teams that support bad ran clubs because you don't have to really worry, which is a whole separate issue. You don't have to worry about your team ever getting dropped down a division. So I mean, I don't think that fans would be out of it. They wouldn't be out of it. They would be disheartened and they'd probably feel like their team wouldn't win. Let's talk about the Hamburger League in Scotland. The teams every year are Rangers and Celtic. They've been around for 100 years. Yeah, I mean, Celtic, the last team to win the Scottish Premiership, I think it was Middleton, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about the club, but the last team to win the Scottish Premiership that's name wasn't Celtic or Rangers was in 1985. It was 41 years ago, the last time a team that wasn't Celtic or Rangers won the Scottish Premiership. Yet there are still fans of all kinds of teams in that league. So I don't think it would hurt the league, but I don't think that we should hurt other teams. We shouldn't benefit other teams at a poor team's expense. Just raise it for everybody. Don't give a cheap team an option to sell DPs. Just give everyone a chance to have more DPs is the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. I think that'd be a huge issue or a huge whiff if they allowed that. They just need to increase the DPs for everybody. Any chance Wilfred Nancy comes back to MLS to coach another team? Of course. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but there's definitely a chance. I think it's actually probably going to happen. I think it's going to happen. Chris, how's it going? I don't know if you've been in a chat before. I've seen you in the comments for the videos, but I'm glad you were able to check out the live stream. Hope you're doing well, my friend. I think that's all, guys. I don't know if there's anything else really left to talk about. I do have a video coming out tomorrow, sneak peek, and I think it's another important video, a little bit more important. It's just that 2026 is the most important season of all time for MLS. Hugely important season for Major League Soccer, the most important season in the history of the league. And that's going to be dropping tomorrow at 6 p.m. Might drop a little earlier, but I think I'm going to drop it at 6 p.m. Eastern time, but it's definitely dropping tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. I hope you guys have had a great night. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Thankful for everyone who got to catch this live. Before you guys head out, if you don't mind, please make sure you guys give it a like down below. It helps us out. Let's try to get to 100 likes on this live stream. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Less than 300 subscribers away from 12,000. It helps us out. We are growing like crazy thanks to you guys, and we greatly appreciate it. And also, make sure you guys hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Hope you guys also like this new format. I don't know if this looks better with the box of me on the left and in the background, but I think it looks better. Curious to see what you guys think. Hope you guys have a great night. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.